Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of View from Tracy's Point, and we are here for part 12 of the R. Kelly series because it is the story that keeps giving, that keeps giving. So, in my part 11 that I did yesterday, we were talking about the fact that the defendant who was going by LC was finally coming forward, and I think we came to a consensus that the reason she was coming forward was because of Avenatti, Michael Avenatti, who's her attorney, getting caught up and arrested in that whole extortion of Nike deal, as well as he's facing other charges in California for extortion, and not for extortion, the extortion was the Nike case, for I think it was bank fraud, wire fraud. You guys can check out the last video. I'm not going to go back into that, but I am going to give you guys some new information about some other stuff that Mr. Avenatti has gotten caught up in. But let's get back to Miss Lanita Carter, aka Lanier Carter, aka Lanita Moten, aka MOTEN-WYNN, aka Lanita MOTEN-WYNN. Okay, so evidently she has several aliases going on, and so she basically is the person who said that she was a hairdresser, and I laugh every time I hear that because that's such an old-fashioned term. She was a the hairdresser for R. Kelly, and I guess she used to braid his hair. And she alleges that he came to her one day and for some reason did some ungodly things to her, and that is why she is part of this case. And so we had some questions about the story that she was telling, and so she was interviewed on the CBS morning show by Jerika Duncan, I think her name, and I think Jerika is, I don't know if she pronounces it Jerika or Jerica, but I think she is so pretty. But when she's interviewed, she's definitely not a Gail King when she's interviewed, because Jerika just sit there and ask a question and then just let the people talk, 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 and then it's like the producer be like, okay, you got about 5 more questions you need to be asking them, and then she'll chime in and ask another question. But for the most part, she doesn't try to lead the person that she's interviewing. She asks her question and then she lets them say what they have to say, and then leave it up to the editing team to edit out what they don't want to be there. But I really like Jerika, or Jerica, however she pronounces her name. And then there's um, another girl who's on Access Hollywood that comes in every now and then. Her and Jerika look a lot alike, and I like her too because them two chicks on Access Hollywood really annoy me. And then that black guy with that fake laugh that he be doing. But when it's the black guy and the girl, her name begins with an S. When the two of them are together, I can stomach Access Hollywood. But when the two white chicks are on there, it's like the black guy becomes very animated and very phony when he's with the two white girls, but he seems more natural when and I don't even know if she's black. She might be Puerto Rican or something, but anyway, she has the blonde hair, but her and the Jerika lady look like they could be related to one another. So I caught the clip of the interview that was released on yesterday. And so I say, this girl seems like she could be very sincere and she is believable. And if I was sitting on the jury, I would probably believe her. But then I also say I'm not getting up 7 o'clock in the morning and be strung out like Gail did us with that R. Kelly interview. And then, after sitting down with him for over an hour, we still have only seen 15 minutes of footage. So I said, well, I'll go ahead and check out the video when they released the full video this afternoon, which I did. And so, she was telling her story. She was shedding the tears and everything. She said all the right things about, this is her release and this is, how she's moving on with her life. And, she would make a good witness on the witness stand for the prosecution. But then the defense would have their chance, and then I think Miss Lanita's little story might fall apart. And so I did go to her Facebook page, and I kind of like went through her Facebook posts. And so here are some of the things that were on her Facebook page that led me to think that, you know what, she's a person that probably started out with a rough life. But at some point, she woke up and got her act together. And so, sort of like you don't have to stay at the bottom all the time, that every day is a new day. God grants us brand new mercies every day. And it's never too late, to make a change in your life and to be a better person. So go ahead and check these out.
Let's go.
And so I want to thank Miss KK. I think she's one of my subscribers, but she commented on my last video where I was talking about Lanita Carter was going to speak out on this interview with CBS. And this is why my opinion has kind of changed about her. Like, I'm kind of like, okay, what in the world is really going on? So check out this video, guys.
Don't get me wrong, because I would love to get hit down, just like her. I mean, hit from the back and side, and I thought I rode like a pro. But I didn't want myself to be a black hole, because I was far from being old. But I thought that shit was cool, just like you. But who could I blame? Was it my mama's fault for not putting me up on game? Or was the society making me feel like I had to fuck whoever said hi? May 23rd, 1996. I mean, it slowed me down for a second, but I was tripping out there badly in the fix. I couldn't let my addiction get neglected. I just couldn't stop sucking dicks because I was sucking fast like I was intoxicated. Because the nut was like a drink and I was inebriated, meaning never sober. But I had to wake up though. And not because I was tired of being that slut though, but because she had reminded me of me. You know how those other sluts used to be.
So what we learned from Miss Lanita, whose name is actually Lanita MOTEN-WYNN. So what we learned from Lanita is that after this alleged incident took place, she actually did go to the police. She said she went straight to the police, and this was in 2003. But that after reviewing her case and reviewing her evidence, that they declined to prosecute. And so it was really interesting because remember the whole the first video came out in 2002, and so she said that she really supported R. Kelly. She believed in him. She was going around telling her friends, don't believe what these people are saying. He's a really nice man, really great guy. He would not have done this. We need to pray for him, that he gets through this. So then she says that, I don't know if she was at a hotel, if she was at a house, or where she was at, but she said she was in this location, and then she got a call, and that the call was telling her to come downstairs because he wanted her to braid his hair. So then she says she went down, and then he arrived. And so I'm thinking, okay, so if you got the call to come downstairs to do his hair, where was he at when you got there? And so I was a little confused with that. So anyway, she says he came in and he told her that he wanted her to massage his head. And so she told him that she doesn't do that. And I'm thinking, if you the hairdresser and somebody you get ready to do somebody's hair, they say massage my head, why would you not do it? But evidently that's not the head he wanted her to massage. So then she said that her hair was braided and that he grabbed her by her braid, pulled her down. That's She told him she didn't want to perform oral on him, and that he spit in her face 6 times. And so we're gonna stop right there because I'm trying to figure out, like, number one, when you pulled my hair, we probably would have been tussling at that point. But for some reason, she sat there, and then she said he started stroking himself, and then there was another confusion as to whether or not he ejaculated or not. The way she was telling the story, he did not, and he became upset, and she said that he spit in her face 6 times. Now, I think we all can agree that the most vile thing that you could do to a person is spit in their face. So who sits there and allows somebody to spit in their face not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, but 6 times? Like, how many seconds has passed as this person is hawking up? Because it ain't like you just have a whole lot of spit in your mouth. Once you spit that first time, you got to be, trying to get some more spit up, and then you spit on the person, and you got to be trying to get some more spit up. So I was a little confused by that, Lanita. I'm going to be honest with you. So then she said somebody knocked at the door. And when the person knocked at the door, he told her to go to the bathroom and to fix her face. And she went in the bathroom, and then she said that, she was so upset and everything. And she got a towel and she wiped her face. And so I got to thinking, the conspiracy theorist in me. So she talks about this Tommy Hilfiger shirt that had the seam. Well, now she said that she took the shirt to the police and they tested it, and they came back and said that it was a match for his DNA. Then she added that it was semen on the shirt. So now we don't know whether semen is her adding to the story, or if the DNA came back that it was his semen or not. I don't know how DNA work or how they match, like, because I know they would have had like his DNA, which is probably like urine and blood or whatever from when he had been arrested in 2002. So I don't know how they do the match for the semen, if the same DNA in your blood is in your semen. I don't know anything about that. But anyway, this is what she says transpired, so we're going to go with that. So then she comes back and she says that 10 months later, she decided to sue him. And that in December of 2003, I believe it was, because all of this happened February, she said it was February 18, 2003. She remembered the date. So in December 2003, she received a $650,000 settlement from R. Kelly. But in the settlement, he denied her allegations. I guess he was just paying her off to get her out of his face. And so she promised that she wouldn't talk about it. He said that he didn't do anything. But then in 2009, R. Kelly came out with a song, and she claimed that the song depicted a hairstyle, this braiding pattern that she was known for doing in the community. It was her trade. It wasn't trademarked, but it was her trademark. Like, if you saw this braid hairstyle, you knew that Lanita had done this style. And so she said that she had made this style popular, and then the scene in the video was actually set up like this room where the alleged attack actually happened at. And so she knew that he was making fun of her, I guess. So she called her lawyer up, and they contacted R. Kelly and told him, what she said. And so he paid her another $100,000. but he alleged that he didn't do anything wrong and that she was supposed to keep her mouth shut. And so not only did she get the $100,000, but he promised not to perform the song again and not to include it in any future albums. Now, we haven't seen the actual paperwork from the lawsuit, so we don't know if the lawsuit, the $100,000, was him agreeing that this was her signature hairstyle that he had copied in this video, or if it was about him making fun of this accusation that she had made. We don't know what any of that said, but she did get an extra $100,000. So my question is the same as a whole bunch of other people. They want to know that when people break non-disclosure agreements, should the person have to pay the money back? And we already know they don't have to pay the money back because people are always breaking non-disclosure agreements, which I think is good that this is coming out about the non-disclosure agreements, because now people will stop entering into them because they know it doesn't protect them. It doesn't make the problem go away because people can come back later. And so now I think it's going to kind of force people that when they say these things happen to them, that they go to the police and then let the police handle it instead of them turning it into a money grab. And the other thing was, since she broke the non-disclosure agreement, can he go ahead and release that song right now? Because they say Spotify, like all these music streaming services are getting like inundated with searches for this song about R. Kelly getting his hair braided, or the hair braider, I think what they said was the name of the song. And so my question though is, what was Drea when all this was going on? Like when her man was paying out all these hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars in settlements? Because I know y'all want to keep saying that R. Kelly couldn't read and so he didn't know what he was signing. But did Drea not know how to read? Because I'm thinking like I'm reading these documents from beginning to end. And then I would be saying to my husband like, babe, I think we got a problem here because these women keep suing you for doing this, all this disgusting stuff to them, and so maybe we need to go get this treated. And then you guys know, I think I mentioned in another video that Drea didn't file for divorce from him. He divorced Drea. So like, just very confusing. And then when she said that there was a knock at the door, who was at the door? Like, do we ever find out who was at the door? Can this person come forward and verify that she was in the room? Did this person witness anything? Have they ever come forward to say, yeah, this actually happened? Did they ever go open the door? Did she leave when the person came in? Like when she came out of the bathroom, was the person there and then she left? I got questions. So then she says that he degraded her, you know, and then the whole thing about spitting in her face. And then you could tell from her when she was doing the interview that she does suffer from low self-esteem. And, you know, she was saying how she knows she's no beauty queen and all that, you know, so you can tell that she had some issues, might still have some issues, you know, like she knew she wasn't this glamorous woman, I guess, that he would want, but she never expected him to do this to her. And so CBS said that they reached out to Shauna Buckler, who was the lead sex crime investigator at that time. And now I hear she's a judge or something, but says that the department has not returned any of their phone calls that they put out to them to explain as to what was the outcome of the investigation that made them not want to pursue this case. And I thought it was really interesting because I'm thinking if he was on trial, you know, for the video, he was on trial, wouldn't this have bolstered their case against him? Like if you got this woman coming forward saying that this happened to her, we done tested the DNA, like would seem like they would have added those charges on, which would have given more credibility to the video case, but maybe not. And then again, it could have just came down to his word against her word. And then what do you do? You know, and that's the same thing that happened with the Faith Rogers chick. They was like, you are an adult, because this girl was 24 at the time. And so you were an adult, you were with this man. We don't know what happened. There are no witnesses. And then even the fact that this girl has the shirt with the DNA on it really doesn't prove anything, because we don't know how it got there. We don't even know if that was the shirt she was wearing. She could have gotten that shirt from out of the bathroom. She could have had the semen in her mouth and spit it out on the shirt. Like, we don't know what really happened, because it's a little tricky in her story, because she's saying that it was semen on the shirt, but then she also said that he couldn't ejaculate, and that was why he spit in her face, and that's why he started masturbating, and it wouldn't, he couldn't make himself come, and then he spit in her face. So anyway, so people were asking, because she said in the interview about how, she would be riding the bus and listening to people defend R. Kelly. And so they were like, well, what did she do with the $650,000 or $750,000 that she received in the settlement? And so I did a little research just to verify what I was already thinking. So we have to keep in mind that in most lawsuits, that I think unless it's a personal injury case, but in a lawsuit like this, she would have had to have claimed that money as income. So she would have been taxed. And I think the tax bracket for that amount of money is probably around close to 30%. And then she would have been taxed on the full amount, and not the amount she actually received after her lawyer got paid, because she would have received the settlement and then she would have had to settle with her lawyer afterwards. And so then the lawyer, like most lawyers in these cases, get anywhere from 30 to 35%. And so when it was all said and done, this girl probably received less than $300,000. And then depending on what she did with the money, like if she invested the money, if she put the money in the bank to live off of, then the following year, like the interest that she would have drawn on the money, she would have had to pay taxes on that. And so then I was saying, then if she didn't have any kids, then she wouldn't have got all these deductions and everything to help with her tax bill. But then I found out, as you saw from the Facebook page, she has about 5 kids. And she had her first kid, I think, when she probably was like 17 years old, and then the youngest one is about 4 or 5 years old. So she did have kids that she could claim some deductions on, but more than half of that money she didn't even get to spend, because it went to taxes and it went to the lawyer. And then you guys remember with Geronda Pace, she never received the money from her settlement. So then that's the other thing I was going to point out. So we don't know if this girl actually got a check for $650,000 and another check for $100,000. She could have been getting monthly payments, and that's what Geronda was supposed to have been doing. But then after R. Kelly made a couple of payments, he stopped paying her, and then she went back and renegotiated her settlement for a lower amount, and then she never got any of that money either. So even though these women are settling for all this money, it doesn't necessarily mean that a check was written out and they were given that money. It could have been like in installments. The money could have been put in a trust. Like, we don't know all the details on how they were getting the money. And on the $100,000, she probably got $50,000 of that. So when asked by CNN about the interview, Steve Greenberg, who's R. Kelly's attorney, he stated that the singer was on bail in the 2002 case during the time that Miss Lanita alleged she was assaulted, and that if R. Kelly had been charged after she made her accusation, after she went to the police, that his bail would have been revoked and he would have gone to jail and had to have sat in jail until his trial took place. And it probably wouldn't took to 2008 to actually go to trial. And so the police had this damning evidence, wouldn't it have bolstered their case, like I said earlier. So now Kim Fox is just out of control because people trying to get she done brought these charges, and now we learning all this stuff is going on, and it's been 16 years and there's new evidence that's come about. And so I'm feeling like she's digging a hole for herself, because if the case had already been looked at and it was determined that there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute, I would think that the only way they could bring these charges up again is if new evidence came about that and then they could charge him with something now because new evidence came up. But to then say, oh, it wasn't enough evidence 16 years ago, but now suddenly it is crazy. And then people are calling for an investigation on her. She was on the news yesterday, gave this long drawn out interview where she was trying to defend her decision in the whole Jussie Smollett case. And so now it's coming out that she didn't really recuse herself from the case. She just wasn't the spokesperson for the case. She was behind the scene telling the other man what to say. And now I saw where somebody, I can't think of what news station it was, one of the Chicago stations, is saying that Chicago Police Department has sent Jussie a bill for $130,000 for all their manpower and all the money that it has cost them to bring those charges against him, and that Jussie has 7 days to submit a check or he's going to be sued by the city. Let's see what else. Oh, and then I also saw where R. Kelly's attorney, Steve Greenberg, has contacted the judge and is asking for a hearing to take place on Monday. So we don't know if it is about these charges for Miss Lanita Carter MOTEN-WYNN, or if it's about the concert that's supposed to be taking place in Dubai. They done settled that whole situation, or if it's about Avenatti saying, that 90% of the information that's coming forth in these cases is bullshit. We don't know. So the lady, Lanita says she's still being represented by Michael Avenatti, who has now made his Twitter page private, so we can't see what he tweeting about no more, because y'all know he had been on ever since he got released from jail on that $300,000 personal bond. He had been revealing all this information, what he called his receipts about Nike, and wasn't nobody paying attention to his receipts. Well, he done made the page private now, y'all. And then I found out some more information about Mr. Michael Avenatti. So I don't know if you guys have been following the story about the NXIVM cult. It was this guy named Rob Napier? I'll get his name. But anyway, he was a guy that had started this little Ponzi scheme thing that was taking place. And then like this actress was arrested because they found out that they were like, I guess, brainwashing these women. And like, this was a real sex cult. And there was all these rich white women, rich folks, that's them bought into the scheme, and they were going to like this result where they were supposed to have been learning about self-empowerment and all this stuff. And turned out he was brainwashing the women to be a part of some little sex scheme he had going on. So this is just a little, the Albany, New York-based NXIVM worked like a pyramid scheme, offering courses promising personal and professional development that cost thousands of dollars. Participants, called Nexians, were encouraged to bring others in for classes, and by recruiting others, Nexians could ascend the group's ranks. Prosecutors alleged, and so Rainier is his name, was accused of leading a master slave sect in NXIVM named DOS. And in this secret society, women were allegedly branded with the 58-year-old's initials and forced to have sexual relationships with him. And if you guys watch Law and Order, was actually about this NXIVM cult thing. So if you guys want to go back and check that out. This came from, I think this story came from the New York Times. So an already bizarre case accusing a secretive self-help group in upstate New York of engaging in sex trafficking took another strange turn Wednesday thanks to firebrand attorney Michael Avenatti and a courtroom scene caused by a wealthy defendant he's tried to represent. So at a hearing in federal court in Brooklyn, prosecutors confirmed that Avenatti appeared on behalf of liquor fortune heiress Claire Bronfman at a closed-door hearing last week that also included Mark Garagos. And remember, Mark Garagos is the co-conspirator of Michael Avenatti in the whole Nike extortion scheme. And so this lady is actually the heir to, she's the daughter of the late billionaire and former Seagram's, Seagram's Gin chairman Edgar Brofman Sr. And she has pleaded not guilty to charges accusing her of bankrolling Nexum, an alleged cult-like organization accused of brainwashing and branding women who served as sex slaves for a spiritual leader. Now, if the Savages and the Clarys really want to know what a sex cult is, they need to look into this organization. And so it says that when the U.S. District Judge Nicholas Garofis asked Garagos whether he and Avenatti, the attorney best known for representing porn actress Stormy Daniels, had told prosecutors Avenatti was being brought into the case, he responded, "That's exactly what happened." So under stern questioning by the judge about which lawyers are actually representing Claire Brofman and whether she knew if Garagos was involved in a criminal case revealed last week against Avenatti, she turned pale, staggered away from the bench, and collapsed into a chair. And an ambulance had to be called, but she later left the courtroom on the arm of Garagos. So the judge adjourned the hearing but told lawyers that Brofman would need to come back to court Thursday to give some answers. And he said, "You're going to tell me who the lawyers are. You're going to tell me when they were retained." So the development came only 2 days after Avenatti was arrested on charges of accusing him of trying to extort millions from Nike, and he wasn't in court Wednesday and didn't immediately respond to messages seeking comment. And like I said, Avenatti then kicked us off his Twitter page so we can't look at his posts. He really needs to go somewhere and sit down like so many people was telling him he needed to do. So now a quick update on Faith Rogers. Y'all remember Faith Rogers? I did the video, I think it was part 10 in the R. Kelly series, where her attorney has been found guilty. So here's a little more about Lydia Agu or Lydia Hill. She another one got some aliases going on. But this was a little more information about why she's facing all this time in prison and what she was found guilty of. And so it says a jury convicted attorney Lydia Hills of obstructing an official proceeding following a 3-day trial in which prosecutors describes how she requested that the U.S. Attorney's Office remove a lien against 4 of her aunt's Queens apartments or properties. So the person that she's in trouble for was actually one of her relatives. And so it says the feds imposed the lien after convicting Hill's aunt of conspiracy to commit wire and bank fraud in 2010, when the judge sentenced her to more than 5 years in prison and ordered her to pay more than $17 million in restitution. So Hill, who was working as a real estate broker to help her aunt sell the properties, in March 2016 sent a letter requesting officials remove the lien. According to prosecutors who alleged the attorney falsely claimed her aunt would not benefit from selling her properties because she would use the funds from the sales to pay off mortgages on the homes as part of a short sale. But by the time she sent the missive, Hill had already conspired with her aunt to secretly sell one of the properties in a scheme that would allow both of them to pocket the cash proceeds and hide the money from the feds, according to information from the U.S. Attorney's Office. So in April 2016, Hills and her aunt met the buyer, who was doubling as a confidential source for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, to close the deal. The buyer source handed over a bag with $25,000 in cash for one of the properties, plus another $8,100 for Hill's broker fee, according to information from the U.S. Attorney's Office, which noted that the federal agency recorded the closing and caught Hills telling the buyer she was worried that the feds would find out about her scheme. Okay. So it looked like her and Michael Avenatti might know each other, since they thinking that they can be pulling off these schemes and defrauding the government and that they're not going to get caught on it. So before I go, one more thing. If you guys are familiar with the YouTuber Neek at Night, she did a video. It was either this morning or last night, about this R. Kelly situation and about Jocelyn Savage's mom, and Haley Calhoun's mom getting into it over on Instagram or Twitter or somewhere. So if you're interested in that, go check out that video because it had me screaming and how all this infighting going on. Oh, and then also I think in that same video, Tim Savage, I don't know if it may have been somebody else's video, but anyway, Tim Savage was arrested on some kind of domestic violence charge back in February. And yeah, I think it is in that because I think Neek reached out to the attorney Griggs guy and then he kind of like got flipped with her. But if it's not her, it's somebody else. Y'all go out there and search for it. But anyway, Jocelyn Savage's father was arrested last month on domestic violence charges, but the charges were dropped. We don't know if it was against the wife, one of the kids, who, what, or how it happened. But he was arrested and released, and the charges dropped on him from an incident that happened last month. So that's it for me. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.